Hello? Hello? Please, I know you can hear us. We are trapped here in the spaces between worlds. It is a wonderful yet terrifying place, and only our voices escape. You can help us. You can let us in before we go mad.
The Great and Miraculous People Machine by Curtis Christensen and Todd Christensen. Wally Abbott sat stiffly at his small, worn wood desk. His posture and starched shirt gave him more the appearance of a cardboard cutout than a living, breathing human being. The only features that betrayed this illusion were deep lines on his brow and crow's feet at the corners of his eyes, texturing his otherwise bland face, the unfortunate byproduct of 5 years of worry and dread. Wally stretched his hands toward the tray marked Inbox and gathered together the substantial stack of folders. His fingers shook from anxiety and over-caffeination. He pulled the file from the top, plopped it on his desk, and took a sip from his bitter black coffee. It tasted like battery acid. Wally read the print on the top of the manila folder. Quarterly Report, Hendrix Manufacturing. Wally's heart sank. Hendrix Manufacturing had been teetering on the edge of collapse for nigh on a year now. They were just one bad evaluation from going under.
This is it,
he thought.
This'll be their end, and I'm the one to hammer that last nail in their coffin.
He peeled back the first page and looked through the compiled data. It read more like the journal of an alcoholic than a production report. Blackout, brownout, brownout, blackout, bout of sickness, blackout.
It's not their fault,
he stated internally.
The blasted insufficient power grid just can't cope.
Wally finished going through the event log and reached the only important bit of information in the whole pile of papers. The bottom of the last page detailed Hendrix Manufacturing's production quota. They were 4,000 units short. Wally shook his head and the furrows on his brow deepened. He knew there was nothing he could do for them. He grabbed a large stamp. Half-heartedly, Wally pressed the stamp over the report. Bright red letters spelled out, fail. He put this copy in the outbox and filed the other in one of the numerous cabinets that lined the walls of his office. It was the one labeled Defunct Businesses.
That won't be the last today,
thought Wally. It seemed to him that far too many documents ended up in that damnable cabinet.
No matter. The state will simply replace everyone and everything until they find something that works. That's the idea anyway. Meanwhile, people are starving and dying. Homeless and broken. Don't think like that. You have a job to do. It's not your place to try and solve the country's problems. We elected people for that.
Wally grabbed the next file. Almost all of them went the same. A few avoided failure by a razor-thin margin. He put them into the further review needed tray. Wally slapped the others with the fail stamp. Some of them he filed back into their designated cabinet. Most were placed in the nearly full Defunct Businesses one. Wally slumped his head to the scarred surface of his desk.
I can't take much more of this,
he thought. He drained the rest of his coffee and stood to get another cup of the vile brew from the churning cauldron in the corner of his office. His mind pondered the filing cabinets that surrounded him. They felt like a prison. He was free to leave, but must always come back. Back to the files, back to the desk, back to the stamp, the red fails, the unmet quotas, defunct businesses, faltering power, economic crisis, the bitter coffee, and the bitter truth. Industry itself might as well have a big red stamp across it that read, Fail. Wally grabbed another folder from his inbox. The stenciled letters spelled out, Quarterly Report, TPM. Wally Abbott had never seen that business name before.
Must be another federal refit,
he thought.
Well, let's see how poorly they're doing.
To his shock, their log was not filled with power outages and disease. In fact, it seemed that they were entirely immune to the normal hurdles of every other factory in the state. Wally's forehead furrowed again, but this time it creased from an expression of shock. He adjusted his glasses as if the issue was his sight. Record numbers and successes filled the report.
What in the hell's going on here? Are they invulnerable to electric shortages? What are they doing right?
He thought. His mind struggled to comprehend the final page. It said that TPM was over quota by 6 million units. He had already grabbed the fail stamp. When his brain caught up to the inconceivable figure, he dropped the stamp on his mug. Ceramic shattered and a slurry of thin, dark sludge flowed across his desk. Wally held the papers up and out of the fluid. He snatched another file and mopped up the coffee with it.
This is the one,
he thought.
This company will save us all.
Wally used his sleeve to mop up any remaining moisture and lovingly laid down the report. His fingers grasped at a different stamp. It had been years since he had felt the smooth wooden handle of this stamp. He pressed it down on the paper as if he were placing a pacifier between the lips of his first newborn child. Green ink marked the report. Pass. Wally tossed his copy into the outbox and didn't even bother to file a report in the proper cabinet. Instead, he scribbled down the phone number on a scrap of paper and rushed out of his office into reception.
Well, Mr. Abbott, where's the fire?
Asked his secretary, Miss Beaumont.
At TPM,
he yelled enthusiastically.
I'm heading out for field work. I'll either save the economy or be out of a job. Finish the rest of the reports for me, dear, won't you?
Fine, Mr. Abbott, but don't be surprised if you're my secretary when you get back.
I'd relish the change,
said Wally as he handed Beaumont the paper.
Send word to this factory. Mr. Abbott from the Department of Industry is on his way for inspection.
The cabbie's electric taxi shorted out a few miles from Wally's destination. Its battery bank sparked and ignited into fire, and the two swiftly exited the vehicle in a panic. Concern for the health of his fare seemed to be the last thing on the cabbie's mind.
Damn it! You pay for this!
Yelled the foreigner in frustration.
What? I had nothing to do with this. I'll pay for the ride, but your vehicle is your business, not mine,
replied Wally.
Pay now or I sue.
Sue? Sue the Department of Industry. I could have your license.
DOI? No, you not understand. I just poor driver. DOI, pocket, enough for tow and drive. No sue, no try to department that side. Money for tow, money now. No sue.
How much?
Asked Wally.
2 tau.
That's ridiculous. I'll give you half.
Deal.
Wally pulled out his money clip and handed $1,000 worth of bills to the cabbie. He felt ripped off, but Wally found no reason to pick a fight. It cost 3 times that much just to get the lithium for the batteries. Even though Wally paid more than his share, that taxi driver most likely teetered on the brink of bankruptcy. The loss of a vehicle could be a death sentence in this climate. Wally Abbott walked through the town called Milton toward the factory. As he strolled, he remembered a time when a street like this bustled with motor vehicles. They ran on combustion engines, fueled by gasoline, and form proved the victor over function. It was an age of decadence, pollution, and beauty. Wally was old enough to recall the sound of hot motors chugging, the fog of heavy exhaust, and the artisan frames of antique vehicles. Inefficient, yes, but by God, they were the most wonderful machines that Wally had ever set eyes on. As it was in this age, very few vehicles moved along the avenue.
But where are all the people? Where are all the homeless?
Wally failed to think of a town in recent memory that wasn't full of drifters and beggars lining the sidewalks. Wally's stomach grumbled.
This jaunt is getting the better of me,
he thought.
I haven't had this much exercise since before I started the DOI.
Wally Abbott strolled down the walk of a town that was wonderfully quaint but hauntingly quiet. Limestone buildings lined the narrow main street. Most of them were abandoned. The mom-and-pop shops of yesterday were a dying breed. They just didn't put the spark in the economy that the government required. Where before, antique shops, butchers, pawnbrokers, and gift shops existed, now only decaying ruins found home. Oddly enough, they looked to be clear of squatters. Along the main stretch was a single diner that seemed open, if a bit run down. He waltzed in and took a seat in a booth. Exposed springs poked through the red vinyl. He set his elbows on the table and grabbed a menu from a little ringed metallic stand. Everything was sticky with some unknown substance. Wally hoped it was the film of a cleaning liquid. He eyed the few other patrons with curiosity while he waited for the waitress. Wally loved to people watch.
You can learn a lot about a town by the way its denizens speak and dress,
he thought. The most prominent among them was a burly man dressed in a sawdust-covered flannel shirt and greasy blue jeans. His brown hair, also covered in a dusting of wood shavings, had that odd dry poof to it that was typical of his vocation. Wally expected him to have a big beard to match the lumberjack aesthetic, but when the man turned, he saw that his leathery cheeks and chin were clean-shaven. His eyes leered about with a paranoid aggression, as if someone was after him. Wally wisely averted his gaze. The next people he saw were a couple of teenagers a few booths down. The boy had hair so blonde that the sun almost reflected off of it. His features were young, smooth, and pudgy, like puberty hadn't quite fully set in. He wore a blue Letterman jacket that made his eyes look even paler azure than they probably were. All Wally could see of the girl past the bench was sleek black hair and the spaghetti-thin shoulder straps of a green dress. The two were loudly gossiping.
Gave him a quarter just the other day, now he's gone. Vanished without a trace,
said the girl.
He probably just hopped the train to a bigger town. Gotta be a better place to beg for scraps than this dinky little burg,
answered the boy.
I don't think he would. Old man Tooley's been here in Melton longer than I've been alive, and he's never left his spot by the abandoned grist mill. But to panhandle and buy a 40 at McCarthy's?
She responded.
Old man Tooley's a head case. Who knows why he left and who cares? Asked
the boy.
I care, and I'm saying he didn't leave. Just check by the grist mill. All his stuff is still there. Tarp, tent, pot, bedroll, even a half-full bottle of whiskey. But no Tooley.
What are you getting at?
I'm saying that we might have a serial killer on the loose.
She hissed at a dropped volume.
I can understand the rest of the homeless picking up and leaving for greener pastures, but old man Tooley? Tooley was born and raised here, and if I'm right, he lived and died here.
You're off your rocker. A serial killer? Here? The most exciting thing that's happened here is when Dale drank too much and ran his bailer through the fence into the ditch. There's no serial killers here,
stated the boy condescendingly. Without turning, the burly man said,
Girl's sorta right. We have a killer, but it isn't a serial one. This killer runs deeper and isn't particular about its victims. Sure, the downtrodden are first, but if you don't keep your head about you, you'll soon face a similar fate.
What's that supposed to mean?
Asked the teenage boy.
What year school are ya?
queried the man.
We're sophomores. What's it to you?
Asked the boy.
Good. Stay in school and don't take a factory job no matter how lucrative it is. It'll eat you alive,
said the man. Wally was eager to continue eavesdropping, but the waitress had arrived.
What can I get for you, Shug?
She asked as Wally turned his attention to her. She looked old, but not from age. Each line on her face told the story of a life hard lived. Wally could see that she had been battered, beaten, and discarded like a ratty, frayed dish towel. Despite this, her smile battled the sagging flesh and wrinkles of her cheeks with a fervent defiance of their very existence. Wally couldn't help but match her smile. He felt that they were kindred spirits.
I'll take the sausage and eggs,
he said, pointing to the menu.
Sure thing, hon,
she replied. Awkward silence filled the air between them.
Sorry, is something wrong?
Asked Wally.
Oh, you must be new here. My apologies. I should have known. We take payment up front. Troubles with dine and dashers, I'm afraid,
she replied.
Of course. No problem at all,
said Wally. He reached into his pocket for his bundle of cash and found nothing.
Damn taxi driver picked me clean,
he thought.
I
hesitated Wally.
It appears I have been robbed. Good thing I still have my wallet and ID,
he thought, still digging through his pockets. The waitress's expression hardened into a scowl that went beyond this minor inconvenience. This was the other side of her, the side that had taken the abuse and mistreatment and hated every moment. It was almost feral. Wally cowered into his seat. He tried to show her his identification.
You could always send the bill to the DO,
he started as he waved the card toward her.
Get the hell out of here,
she interrupted.
We don't have seats for freeloaders and thieves.
Embarrassed, Wally shoved his ID back into his wallet and rose from the booth, still hungry. He shuffled dejectedly toward the exit. The burly man stopped him at the door.
You're heading for TPM, aren't you?
He asked.
How did you know?
Asked Wally.
Anyone showing up here without a dime to their name is going to that factory. Take my advice. Don't. It's not what it seems. I've seen men enter and never return. Mark my words, TPM is a slaughterhouse for those down on their luck. They promise paradise, but only purgatory awaits.
All right. I'll keep that in mind,
said Wally. He wasn't convinced.
This man is a lunatic,
thought Wally.
TPM will save the country. It has to. I won't entertain any doubt. This factory is a success among a long list of failures. I don't care about small-town drama. Success is all that matters in this economy.
Wally Abbott left the delectable scent of the diner behind, despite his stomach's protestation. Doubts began to form in the back of his mind, resolution aside.
What did that lumberjack mean, slaughterhouse? How are they producing so much? Something definitely stinks in Milton. But is it TPM? Enough!
He shouted internally at his own brain.
They're all just a bunch of rumor-slinging hicks. That's what you learn about this town from your people watching. A killer prowling about? What a load of hooey.
Wally walked the miles to reach TPM. A bus passed him on the road. It looked to be filled with a mix of Mexican immigrants and weather-beaten hobos.
That's odd,
he thought.
I wonder where they could possibly be headed.
He brushed away a subsequent idea inspired by the words of the teenagers in the diner. When he finally arrived, what he actually saw differed greatly from the picture he had formed in his mind during the rather lengthy jaunt. An enormous industrial complex sprawled out before him. Immediately more questions came to mind, the loudest being,
how in the world are they powering all of this?
He had sat in his office mere hours ago reading report after report of repeated power failures, but not one reported power failure from TPM. Yet, somehow their production of units far exceeded any that he had ever seen. Even decades ago, when big industry ruled and units flowed freely from out of every factory door. Wally slowly approached the large metal gate that blocked the road in front of him. There was a small intercom box, and he hesitantly reached out to press the button. His earlier enthusiasm was turning into trepidation. A sugary, vibrant-sounding female voice instantly responded.
Welcome to TPM. How may we help you?
Her tone caught Wally off guard. No company was ever happy about a visit from the DOI. Wally nervously cleared his throat.
My name is Wally, Abbott, from the Department of Industry. My secretary, Miss Beaumont, called earlier about an inspection tour.
Why, yes, of course, Mr. Abbott. We have been expecting you. Please swipe your identification card through the slot on the intercom.
Wally fished out his wallet and followed the instructions.
Everything SOP so far,
he thought. There was a brief pause, then the faint hum of precious electricity, and the gate swung open. He expected he'd have to walk the final 100 yards to the rather intimidating front facade of the gigantic building. Instead, an electric golf cart silently approached.
More electricity?
Wally thought. The golf cart pulled up and, despite having no driver, stopped immediately in front of him. Wally cautiously stepped into the cart. He had heard of self-driving vehicles, but never before had seen one. As soon as he sat down in the plush suede seat, an intercom positioned in lieu of the steering wheel crackled to life with the voice of the receptionist.
Please relax and enjoy the ride. The general manager asked me to express the utmost regret at not being able to join you, but hopes that you enjoy a tour of the outer grounds,
she said, as the golf cart gently rolled into motion. Her sing-song cadence reminded him of the call of a wood thrush.
Sounds like a good place to start,
said Wally.
Who's the GM, by the way? I couldn't find his name in the files.
Oh, the manager wouldn't want me to say. Bit eccentric, you know, and has a love for theater. The GM always makes a showy introduction. Rest assured, the manager will be present for your tour of the inner facility.
I'm looking forward to it,
responded Wally, but red flags were already waving inside his mind.
What kind of manager has no record of his management? Why is the receptionist reluctant to give me his name? This is most unusual.
He looked ahead and saw 4 large cylinders marked with hazard symbols. The cart came to a stop in front of the tanks. Wally recognized the symbols. One was marked as methane, the next as nitrogen, third as carbon dioxide, and the last was hydrogen. All were labeled as compressed.
Here is our storage of gases. Our facility produces and ships over 100,000 cubic feet of pure compressed gas per day. Our supply meets the needs of the entire state,
stated the receptionist.
That's amazing, and hard to comprehend. Where does it come from? How's it produced?
The general manager will explain better, but this is just a byproduct of our manufacturing technique.
Byproduct? You mean this isn't your primary product?
Asked Wally.
Not even a fraction,
she proclaimed proudly.
You'll find that TPM supplies a little bit of everything we need. We're less a factory than we are an institution of human interest.
The cart jolted forward. The machine felt more sluggish now, but it pressed on nonetheless. Wally thought nothing of it, mostly because his thoughts had been consumed by the overwhelming stench that filled the air. The closest comparison he could draw was that of a pig pen, but even that description paled in comparison to the smell. Wally gagged and choked back vomit.
Sounds like you're experiencing our next product. Don't worry. The cart will continue past without stopping,"
said the receptionist.
"This is our fertilizer. Word on the agricultural scene says that it is the most effective medium for plant growth."
Wally swallowed down rising bile and forced his neck to turn to the left. Mounds of brown rose from the ground. 3 massive pipes spewed out chunky liquid into the fenced area. Workers with cloth masks over their faces shoveled the slurry into the trailer of the truck. Their rubber boots slid and sank into the muck. Wally's stomach turned somersaults in his gut. Relief coursed over him when the fertilizer field disappeared around another corner in the massive building. The cart moved toward what looked like a silo. Several pods lined the silo and stairs led to the top of each pod. Workers ran up the stairways carrying heavy bags. They sliced the sacks open and dumped the powdered contents into chutes at the top of the pods. The cart stuttered to a stop.
"Here is where we flavor and ship our healthy foodstuffs. The nutritional slurry is pumped from the factory into the main compartment. The secondary compartments are spiced, flavored, and cured. Our food is a staple within the country. You yourself have probably eaten our meal extenders. Fish, chicken, pork, and vegetables are all mixed with TPM slurry to provide a more balanced and flavorful meal,"
said the receptionist.
I presume this is FDA approved?
Asked Wally.
"Of course. TPM wouldn't dream of sending out anything that wasn't federally approved. We even have our own former FDA agent working here."
Wally caught a whiff. He couldn't say that it smelled good, but it was infinitely better than the sinus-burning stench of whatever composed that fertilizer.
An FDA agent works here? What compelled him to quit a government job and work for TPM? No offense, but factory work is fickle. Most would kill to have the opportunity to work safely guarded by the red tape of bureaucracy.
Asked Wally.
"He saw TPM's vision and shared it. The general manager made sure of that. You may very well find yourself working here soon enough,"
she answered and forced a laugh. For a second, the image of Abbott's file cabinet gulag flashed through his mind.
Too soon,
he thought.
I don't even really know what goes on inside. Besides, the country would do better if I take what I learned here and apply it at a national level. Senator Abbott. Has a nice ring to it.
"We've tarried here long enough,"
said the receptionist.
"We should move on. The manager is eager to meet you."
Very well. Let's keep on.
The cart staggered into motion. It struggled along its path. Wally wondered how it even knew where to go. His eyes scanned the side of the building. Half spheres of black dotted the exterior wall.
Cameras?
He pondered.
Is this cart remotely controlled? Is there some peon rolling me about on this tour, or is it the manager himself? Or is it a track?
Wally looked over the front of the golf cart, attempting to see some kind of magnetic rail or even a painted line. He saw nothing. The cart stopped beside a set of 20 vats. The sound of flowing fluid filled his ears.
"Here we have our purified water,"
said the receptionist.
Impossible!
Exclaimed Wally, his eyes nearly bulging out from under his spectacles. Clean water had become a luxury in these times. Most of what was available was just one step removed from poison, and the rest was laden with lead, mercury, narcotics, and E. coli.
"Not impossible anymore, thanks to TPM,"
cried the receptionist. The cart moved onward. There was another vat. Men in hazmat suits carefully poured off the yellow fluid into glass flasks.
"Acid,"
responded the receptionist, in answer to Wally's unasked question.
"We use it to cure the meal extender and still have excess. We produce enough to supply several chemical labs. A shame that we can't put it to further use in the factory, but the manager is working on that.
The golf cart sputtered to a stop in front of an array of chutes that spat out little bits of dull gray shavings.
Our heavy metal production,
proclaimed the receptionist.
We expel aluminum, arsenic, cadmium, lead, and the like from the raw material as a solid form in these bins to be used for other ventures.
The cart refused to move. Wally watched the pellets of metal fall into their containers. He heard the quiet voice of the receptionist whisper through the intercom.
Get it fixed.
She hissed.
No excuses. This guy is DOI. We need everything to be flawless or he could sink us.
Wally heard the sound of leaking fluid. He poked his head out of the carriage and looked at the pavement. Red pooled and ran from under the golf cart. It looked oddly like blood. A short man sprinted from a door in the facility and approached the cart. A wide grin adorned his face like an ornament.
What's going on here?
Asked Wally.
Just a minor malfunction. No problem.
Said the man.
We'll have you back on the tour en un segundo.
What's that red liquid?
Transmission fluid? No problem. I'll patch it up and fill it. New tecnología. This is those drivers. Poquito melindroso. A bit finicky. No problem, boss. The manager will bang out the dents.
Pablo fiddled around under the carriage of the cart. He pulled strange tools out of his box and tinkered at the machinery under Wally's feet. They looked more like surgical implements than traditional tools. Wally took the opportunity to look around. A parked bus near the outer fence caught his eye. He couldn't be sure, but it looked like the bus from before.
Are they hiring homeless and immigrants? Bit strange, but problem solved is problem solved.
Soon, the little man slapped the side of the cart with satisfaction. He grabbed a tube and shoved it under the carriage. A squeal assailed Wally's ears from the cart. It sounded almost like a pig.
It's probably just the noise of the engine restarting,
thought Wally. Pablo finished his work and awkwardly saluted Wally. The cart rolled forward much more smoothly. It only stopped when a massive covered bin of white powder appeared. A conveyor shot it out into the deep recesses of crates.
What could this even be?
Asked Wally.
Calcium. Our country is starved for it after the ban on milk. We at TPM have the answer, a concentrated calcium supplement, and at a cost that would make even the old-school dairy farmers blush.
Is this even real? Have you heard the expression too good to be true?
Asked Wally.
Yes, I have, but I assure you, TPM is too good to ignore.
We'll see, but I'm still skeptical,
said Wally. He was more than skeptical. A deep sense of anxiety wrapped around his gut and constricted like a boa.
Calm yourself, Wally. This could be huge for your career. No reason to get all worked up about nothing.
Of course you are. Everyone is before talking to the manager. Our GM has a way of being very convincing. Not that there's anything to convince you of. TPM is a marvel of modern industry. For instance, just take a look at our receiving,
responded the receptionist. The golf cart moved forward. Wally saw numerous dock workers mixing liquid into and hauling raw product into the factory. The materials seemed to be a simple mixture of corn, wheat, and sour water. Bizarrely, the workers shoveled what was essentially thick gruel into wheelbarrows and dumped everything onto the floor inside the first set of doors. A second set concealed the rest of the factory from view. Wally, utilizing his years of experience and knack for numbers, mentally calculated the ratio of input to the output he had seen. He cross-referenced with what he remembered of the report and factored in an average overhead cost. He nearly had an aneurysm.
It's not possible. It simply isn't possible,
he thought. TPM's margin lay somewhere between 50 to 70%. The fear uncoiled from around his insides and was replaced by reignited fervor.
How much is left of this tour?
He asked.
I'm eager to meet the general manager.
That was it, at least of the outside. Enjoy the rest of the ride. The GM will meet you in the foyer. I hope that we at TPM have awed and impressed you.
The golf cart scooted past the length of building until Wally was back near the gate. He expected it to stop, but instead it accelerated straight for the door.
What's going on? Stop the cart!
Screamed Wally at the silent speaker. He braced against the suede seat for the collision. The golf cart jolted forward faster. Wally closed his eyes. The crash never happened. The cart slid through the entry and over the marble flooring of the reception area. It skidded to a stop in front of a desk. Wally pulled himself out of the cart and he fell on the tiled floor. He shakily pushed himself upright and looked over the counter.
Welcome to TPM, Mr. Abbott. Good to finally meet you face to face,
said the bombshell across from him. Her hair curled and wisped around her pert almond face. Tart, full red lips puckered the perfect distance from her pointed chin. Large green eyes sat under her wide but thin eyebrows. Her slim figure filled out a tailored suit. The only unattractive part of her was the wide grin that refused to falter. Wally stared dumbfounded, both at the nonchalant response of the receptionist and his own perceived brush with death.
You must be eager to meet the GM. Allow me to fetch the manager,
she said before Wally had a chance to speak. She disappeared through a door behind her.
Wait!
Yelped Wally, regaining his faculties. Only half a second passed before loud, triumphant music blared from all around. Wally tried to find the source, but it seemed to come from the floor itself. The lights shut off. The orchestral music built to a crescendo. The desk lowered into the floor. A spotlight snapped on to illuminate the door that the receptionist had left through. The door blasted from its hinges to reveal a slim figure in the shadows.
What is going on?
Thought Wally. The figure walked out into the light. Stiletto heels pointed out of the bottom of thigh-high boots. Pale cream skin peeked out below a flared black skirt. The skirt integrated into the long suit jacket that opened in a V starting at her midriff. Glittering silver buttons staggered across the gap, and a thin thread woven between the buttons held the two sides together over more alabaster skin. The sleeves ran all the way to the wrists, and a similar button and thread affair ran up to the elbows. A veil draped down from the twisting brim of a massive ornate hat. Feathers, buttons, and fans of lace adorned the oblong, asymmetrical head ornament. She grabbed the hat and flung it like a frisbee across the hall. Wally saw that it was the receptionist, garbed in the extravagant attire. He struggled futilely to make sense of the scene.
Welcome, Wally Abbott. Welcome to the great and miraculous people machine,
she declared with a flourish of her arms. Wally's mind decided to take a holiday, and his body wavered on the verge of losing consciousness.
What? How? This is absurd. What is going on here?
He asked. She cast him a dirty look at his apparent lack of awe at her entry.
I am the manager, Beatrix Valentine.
Okay. okay?
She dropped her arms and huffed.
Ugh, all business, eh? Fine. Turn up the lights.
The foyer returned to its original state. Wally discovered to his dismay that Beatrix, under her makeup and theatrics, was rather homely. He had been fooled, as men often are, by the glitz and glamour of thickly caked foundation, blush, and lipstick. Wally regained his composure and asked,
What was all of that?
Just a glimpse of the wonders to come. Such a grand factory deserves a grand introduction. Don't you agree?
I suppose, but I'm not really interested in any of this. How should I put it? Inane showmanship. I'm from the DOI. I want to know the ins and outs of TPM. I want to know how it is so successful and how to replicate that success.
Beatrix clasped her hands to her chest. Wally tried not to notice the way that it made her sizable bosom jiggle within the tight confines of the black suit.
A man after my own heart. When it comes down to brass tacks, I exalt productivity as the ultimate goal. I'm sure you'll find TPM far exceeds your expectations.
She proclaimed, still refusing to give up the ridiculous performance.
Well, what now? Are you to give me the tour as promised?
Asked Wally.
What's the rush? Come to my office. Reap the rewards that TPM has to offer.
Wally wasn't keen on being wined and dined. After all, he was here in an official capacity. He wanted to see the inner workings of the factory, not benefit from the results.
I don't think that's necessary.
He started before his stomach growled. That was all the confirmation that Valentine needed. She beckoned him with a single seductive finger to her office. It was less an office and more a lavish, decadent dining room. A large table was already set with 2 place settings of fine china and silverware fit for a king. Beatrix took the spot at the head. Wally sat 10 feet away from her on the opposite end. Before he could even speak, maids dressed in frilly short skirts and low-cut white tops entered. They filled his plate with a tartare topped with an egg yolk and garnished with sautéed onions, mushrooms, peppers, and a side of baked pita chips.
What kind of meat is this? Beef? It can't be. Only politicians and foreign dignitaries can get a hold of cow meat.
His glass was filled to the brim with a bluish slurry. Beatrix was served an identical dish. She dug in without hesitation. Wally poked at the pink entree with apprehension.
Are you sure this is safe to eat, Mrs. Valentine? Raw meat hasn't been served in over a decade. It's a health hazard,
stated Wally.
Health hazard no longer, Mr. Abbott. And it's Miss Valentine. Take and eat. This tartare has been treated with TPM brand meal extender. The acidity obliterates any harmful bacteria and parasites, leaving only clean, healthy meat. We at TPM regard safety with the utmost of sanctity,
she said as she slurped a heavy amount of the blue drink. Her eating habits were absolutely disgusting. She gobbled, gulped, and scarfed down food and drink like a starving animal. Pita crumbs, slivers of seared vegetable, and raw meat dribbled down her chin onto the napkin in her lap. Under normal circumstances, Wally would have lost his appetite, but hunger is a demanding beast. He cautiously grabbed a chip and spooned in a mouthful of the tartar.
It's delicious. Beyond delicious. It's the best thing I've ever eaten.
Wally had become so used to the bland, clinical flavor of a regular diet that he had completely forgotten what real food tasted like. He even forgot about the meat's dubious origins.
It's heaven on earth.
He found himself mirroring Valentine's feral feeding method. Lastly, he took a sip of the pale blue fluid. Wally nearly had a metaphysical reawakening. It tasted like a blueberry pie. He reveled in better memories, memories of a time long past where his mother had made baked goods of a similar flavor. Beatrix's voice drew him back to reality.
What do you think?
She asked.
This is the best meal I've had in years,
He said.
All thanks to TPM.
She said.
That drink is a special mix of purified water, our calcium supplement, and flavoring. We have 20 flavors at the moment and are aiming for 24.
His gut filled, Wally returned his thoughts to business.
This is all very impressive,
He said.
but you still haven't shown me the actual manufacturing.
Soon. In fact, right now. Just need to get suited up. If you're well and done with your meal, follow me,
Said Beatrix. Wally was indeed stuffed beyond belief. It seemed absurd, given the sizable amount of food still lying uneaten on his plate. He rose from his chair and sluggishly followed.
Suited up? Is the factory floor hazardous?
He asked as they walked.
Quite the contrary. You pose more of a threat to it than it does to you. We work with very delicate machinery. Just one wrong breath could set the whole floor into disarray.
I've never heard of machinery like that. Did you design them yourself?
You give me too much credit. Yes, I had the dream, the vision, the ambition, but it was a man with a wonderful mind that brought my imaginations to reality. His name is Alexander Blackwell.
I would love to meet this Blackwell,
Said Wally.
We'll see. Being the brains of the operation is a very taxing job. I'm not sure he'll have the time, but I'll do my best,
Replied Beatrix. She led him to the restroom that was marked with the figure of a female in a skirt. She opened the door and turned back toward him.
Oh, Mr. Abbott, you can't. You shouldn't,
Said Beatrix coyly.
I can't reveal everything all at once. Your changing room is across the way.
Wally blushed and rushed to the opposite side of the hall. He entered the appropriate room. He found a locker that already had his name stenciled over its yellow surface.
Well, that's rather presumptuous.
He thought.
I've been here for a little over an hour and they already expect me to stay.
Wally opened the door. Inside was a blue suit. He pulled it out and tried to shove his shoes into the legs of the suit. They would not fit no matter how hard he tried to push.
You're going to have to undress,
Stated a female voice from behind him. Flabbergasted, Wally spun. He was met with a vision of true beauty, unconcealed by layers of makeup. Brown hair curled down to her waist. Her eyes were a dazzling hazel, her face taut and lengthy, and her body, dressed similar to the maid's from before, was slim but shapely in all the right places. Disturbingly, a plastered-on fake smile interrupted her natural beauty.
This is, the men's changing room. You can't be in here. Undress?
Stammered Wally.
Relax. It ain't anything I haven't seen before.
She said before her voice lowered to a grumbled whisper.
That's why I'm here after all.
What was that?
Asked Wally.
Oh, nothing. Now take off your clothes. We need to get you and your suit clean. Just a precaution.
Wally was at a loss for words.
This can't be real. Either they're trying to embarrass me, or they're butting me up for what's to come. If it's the former, then, well done, I'm sufficiently humiliated. If it's the latter, then what could possibly be so wrong that it warrants such tactics?
He thought. The maid just stared with that molded clay smile while he pondered these things. But soon enough was enough.
Would it make you more comfortable if I undressed as well?
She asked, pulling him jarringly out of his own thoughts.
No,
he yelled. Her smile faltered for a split second.
I mean, no, that won't be necessary,
said Wally. His face flushed more and more red with each article of clothing that he removed. Soon, he was completely nude. The maid withdrew a bottle from a pocket on the front of her skirt. She sprayed him down and then sanitized the interior of the suit as well. The mystery liquid tingled on his skin and burned slightly. While he squeezed himself into the suit, the maid tugged the zipper closed. She folded his clothing and placed them into the locker.
You'll want to make your way back to the lobby. That's where the general manager is waiting,
she said. Wally walked a few steps before she grabbed his shoulders.
Get out. As soon as the opportunity arises, flee,
she whispered.
This place ain't what it seems.
Perplexed, Wally took his time as he wandered back toward the lobby.
Why are they playing head games with me? Don't they understand that I could shut the whole thing down with just the smack of a stamp on a report? I'm the only one in the chain of bureaucracy that even reads the files. Nobody else will even bat an eye if I slap a fail on their file. Just doesn't make sense.
He paused at a mirror over the bathroom sink. He examined himself in his new garb. His naked body was completely sealed from the outside world. The only opening was a valve at the mouth that he assumed would allow for drinking without letting anything out. A clear film ran from his hairline to his chin. 3 metal discs surrounded his face and formed a frame. 2 were at his ears and 1 was around his face. Connected to this frame, below either cheek, were small, can-shaped filters that scarcely looked capable of passing enough air. Despite appearances, Wally could breathe through the filters just fine. He turned around. Craning his neck over his shoulder, he realized that he was trapped in this blue plastic prison. The zipper was on the back of it, and he couldn't reach.
Strange,
he thought.
This looks more medical than industrial in an application.
He exited the dressing room. Beatrix was waiting with a cadre of employees. Each one was smiling past the clear plastic film. Their lips conveyed joy, but their eyes told a different story. They were absolutely terrified.
Mr. Abbott, what took you? Not up to anything sordid, were you?
Asked Valentine with a sly grin and a wink.
Of course not. I'm here for one reason and one reason alone. These desperate attempts to corrupt my judgment are not lost on me. I'm DOI, and all of this is going in my report,
said Wally with a defiant tone. Beatrix's eyes narrowed and sliced straight through his falsely confident bravado.
What I mean is, let's get on with the tour. I need to see why TPM is so successful. That's what I'm here for,
said Wally. Behind the clear plastic, Valentine's features softened to their usual giddy, joyous state.
Excellent. We at TPM have nothing to hide. Come and marvel at the wonders of the people machine,
she proclaimed. The doors to the factory floor swung open at her voice. Even through the barrier of his suit, Wally felt the humidity rise. A great thumping emanated, and the sound of wheezing pushed air past him. He walked into the dimly lit factory. His eyes slowly adjusted to the scene before him. It was a sight of gyrating flesh, sinew, tendon, muscle, and bone. Wally stumbled backward and passed out. He woke up to the smiling face of Beatrix Valentine staring down at him.
Now that's the kind of reaction I live for. A little disappointed that you didn't do the same when we met,
she said. Wally could still hear the rhythmic thumping.
What in the name of all that is holy? What is going on in this factory?
Squeaked Wally.
Isn't it marvelous?
She asked.
No, it's absolutely horrifying. I'm leaving. I don't want to see any more,
said Wally. He tried to stand and collapsed again.
Don't be ridiculous. Every innovation seems insane at its inception. Give us a chance, Mr. Abbott. Let TPM show you just how effective it is,
said Valentine. Something in her tone told Wally that this was not a request.
All right,
he yelped with a bit too much panic.
Just give me a few minutes to recover and brace myself, or whatever it was that was in there.
Take all the time you need, Mr. Abbott. Just know that I am simply quivering with anticipation. Such wonders I have to show you.
Wally took his time. He kept his eyes firmly shut as he tried to get a grip on what he had seen, but comprehension eluded him.
It breathes. It has a heartbeat. This isn't a factory, it's a beast. This can't be real. Can I trust my eyes? Did I really see what I thought I did? Am I going mad?
Soon, his time to think was up. Beatrix stamped her foot impatiently. Wally rose from the floor, unsure whether to flee or persist. He looked at the other men around him and became convinced that he needed to continue with the tour. Most still held on to their contorted smiles, but a few faltered. What he saw behind their smiling expressions, a barely hidden terror. It was primal, submissive, an ancestral fear that harkened back to the days when cavemen faced off with scarcely killable behemoths.
They're captives, and so am I.
Are you ready now?
Asked Valentine.
Yes,
squeaked Wally involuntarily. Beatrix grinned widely with sadistic glee and satisfaction.
Excellent. I promise you will not be disappointed,
she said as she gracefully spun back toward the factory floor. Her movements still held a subtle, seductive gait, even under the layers of suit. Her hips swayed side to side in an exaggerated manner, and her stride was short, as though she were somehow still wearing high heels inside of that suit. For Wally, however, the illusion had been broken. His legs struggled against the spurring of his mind. It seemed like his entire body was rebelling. With shaking knees, he managed to move forward, one step at a time, toward the beast lying beyond those doors. Warmth, humidity, and breath wafted through. Wally shuddered. Organic pink and bright red assaulted his eyes. A world of flesh awaited. He gagged, trying his best not to upchuck in the suit. Vomit made its way to his closed lips. He swallowed. Moisture beaded up on the surface of his mask. Veins pulsed, connecting to an array of disembodied hearts, beating to a rhythm each their own. Wally steeled his resolve, but it nearly failed him. He swayed, wavering with only a splinter of sanity keeping him upright.
What is that?
He asked, with the same childhood stutter that he thought he had eradicated after the speech therapy in high school.
Oh, that's just our generator,
answered Valentine.
TPM has harnessed natural biological functions for hydraulic power and electricity. The technology is still in its infancy, but I have high hopes for its future. The heart is a fickle thing, is it not? Even Blackwell couldn't upscale it properly, so we decided on quantity over size.
Where did you get these hearts? And everything else for this matter?
Asked Wally, not quite wanting to know the answer.
Wallace,
chastised Beatrix with a waggle of her gloved finger.
You wouldn't want to ruin the surprise now, would you? Come now, there is so much more to show you.
She led him past the thumping hearts. Even through the filters on his mask, Wally could smell the metallic funk of blood. As they walked, the motion of the air deadened, but the continuous whooshing sound grew louder.
"Mind the vessels,"
said Valentine, as she carefully ducked under a bundle of veins into a dimly lit room. Wally's eyes adjusted. In the center were 2 huge pink lungs, inflating and deflating within a clear plastic membrane. A mechanical diaphragm forced the air in and out through a mock trachea that ran through the ceiling. The lungs looked like they had been expertly pieced together from normal-sized ones. Wally Abbott was speechless.
"Remember your anatomy. The lungs remove carbon dioxide and oxygenate the blood to fuel the rest of the factory,"
explained Valentine, motioning to the numerous arteries and veins.
But
stammered Wally. His head was spinning.
"Breathtaking, isn't it? TPM functions entirely independent of the unreliable energy grid. Blackwell and his wonderful mind would better be able to describe the exact minutiae, but I know the basics. That diaphragm is even designed to be manually operated. Even if we lost electricity due to a malfunction, the machine would keep on keeping on."
how?
Started Wally, almost finding his voice again.
"On with the tour,"
interrupted Beatrix. Wally Abbott coerced his legs to follow. They went up a ladder and onto a catwalk above the factory floor. From this height, he could see most of the people machine in all its grotesque glory. Intestinal tracts undulated, blood vessels ran every which direction, and at the center of it all was a massive churning pale red sack.
"Here we are at the heart of TPM. Maybe you think the heart should have been the heart, but nope. This is the stomach. Raw material enters and product exits, and at a fraction of the cost of other factories. Even our byproducts are valuable, as you saw. The stomach ingests, processes, and excretes nutrients, water, and substance. Everything from the fertilizer to the meal extenders."
Wally's thoughts raced.
This is bad. This is bonkers. Senator Abbott, I'd be happy just to get out of this nightmare factory.
Wally searched the lower level for emergency exits. Seeming to sense his intent, Beatrix shot him a baleful glare.
"Not thinking of ducking out of the tour early, are we, Mr. Abbott?"
she asked, menace dripping from each syllable.
No, of course not.
Her facial features contorted back into the fake smile, but her eyes retained their threat. She gave a soft sigh before saying,
"I know this is tough to comprehend. Let me remind you why you are here."
Her footfalls clanked over the steel catwalk. She stopped and pointed to the large pile of intestines on the floor. They looked like a bunch of wiggling pink worms. Her fingers traced the air, following their length to where the thinner tubes attached to the large bulbous ones. The large intestines branched into 3 and pumped straight through the wall.
"You can't smell it from here, but that leads to the fertilizer. Rich manure, free from harmful bacteria, the highest quality possible beside cows. And we both know that ship has sailed and sunk,"
explained Valentine. She moved further and pointed again. This time she motioned to a spot where another bulging tube of bowel shunted from the main cluster.
"This processes the meal extender,"
she said.
"Just look. TPM is bolstering agriculture and the food industry. Our country is starving. We are on the brink of an even worse economic disaster if this keeps up with no solution. People are dying, Children are malnourished. The elderly are being culled en masse. The people machine is the answer. 6 million units over quota, Wallace. 6 million. I know it looks grotesque, but it's effective.
Wally was nearly convinced. Maybe he was just becoming desensitized, but Beatrix Valentine was making a lot of sense.
I mean, really,
he thought.
I haven't seen anything that violates DOA regulations. The factory is immaculately clean. The products have a seal of approval from the FDA, and TPM is up to snuff on safety standards. Am I really so shallow as to throw away good industry because of my own sensibilities?
Wally leaned over the railing and looked at all the employees buzzing about, busy as bees in a great human hive. Wally Abbott thought of all the factories he had sent to the abyss, all the employees laid off, all the refits, all the chaos, all the uncertainty. And that was the core of the issue.
If anything, TPM is certain. TPM is stable. And above all, TPM is productive.
A wailing siren interrupted Wally's pondering.
What's going on down there?
Cried Valentine to a worker below as he rushed past. The employee paused.
We got an aneurysm in artery 6! She's gonna rupture!
Shouted the worker. Wally, curious, surveyed the array of blood vessels until he saw one that was bulging.
Get the patch kits,
ordered Beatrix.
That's where I was heading before you stopped me. It's gonna be tight. That artery supplies Blackwell's work.
All right, I'm coming to help. Stay clear until it bursts. We'll have to keep that artery open as we repair it. We'll only have about 3 minutes before TBF. I hope you understand what that means.
Wally couldn't quite see the man's face, but he saw the color drain from his pallor.
I'll be back in a moment, Wallace,
called Beatrix as she booked it to the nearest ladder down.
No cause for alarm. Don't stand me up now. There's so much more for me to show you.
She slid down the ladder and vanished into the flurry of activity on the factory floor. Wally Abbott remembered what the maid had said.
Get out. As soon as the opportunity arises, flee.
He fought his desire to run.
This is for the good of the nation.
All his resolve vanished as soon as he saw a geyser of blood erupt from the distended artery.
This is too much.
Wally fled down the ladder and he found the nearest exit. He almost expected it to be locked, but to his surprise, it opened easily. He sprinted as fast as his sedentary lifestyle would allow, and then stopped. Beside him was a series of massive tanks. He recognized that this was the purified water. On the side of each tank was a clear window, with tick marks to gauge the amount. All of the tall cylindrical tanks were full to capacity, and an overflow valve was trickling with the excess. Wally cupped his hands and drank through the valve on his suit. The water tasted clean and sweet. It was even cool, given the tank's position nestled in a sun-sparse nook of the building. And that was all it took. He looked over the water and estimated that it was enough to supply a small city.
I don't care how or why. This is progress. This is the beginning of prosperity. It can't lead to anything other than an age of decadence to rival, nay, to challenge those of the past.
Wally Abbott turned around. One way or another, he resolved to be a part of the great and miraculous people machine. He re-entered the factory, climbed back up to the catwalk, and waited for Beatrix Valentine. As he waited, he envisioned improvements.
Railway for more efficient shipping, switch to O-negative blood for transfusions, cultivate a probiotic gut biome to supplement the meal extender, add power-generating turbines to the breathing chimney, and all the motion-generating biomechanics.
Wally felt his dreams of grandeur solidify as Beatrix Valentine returned.
Crisis averted. Alexander Blackwell has a wonderful mind, and I'd hate to see it thwarted by a lack of BP.
she said.
BP?
Asked Wally.
Blood pressure. The people machine relies on BP to keep on pumping. It's our life source.
Indeed. And how much blood does TPM need to function at max capacity?
Well, given the loss we just had, we're still functioning at 90%.
What blood type are you using?
Asked Wally.
Right now we are using O positive, the most common blood type. Why?
Have you considered switching to the universal donor, O negative? Any excess could be sold off for blood transfusions.
Why didn't I think of that? Wallace, this is big. I knew it. I knew you'd be on board. I knew you had a wonderful mind. It'll take some doing, but no. Yeah, that's fantastic. We just need a goodly amount of donated bone marrow. Then we'll make the switch and start shipping to hospitals across the country. It's brilliant.
Wally Abbott, capitulating to the theatrics, gave an exaggerated bow. Beatrix's red lips stretched into the sincerest smile that he'd seen on her face since the beginning of the tour.
Shall we continue the tour?
She asked.
Absolutely,
replied Wally. Finally, his legs stood beneath him without wavering. Finally, he felt the same excitement as he had when he first saw that file. He followed Beatrix Valentine with a confident stride to match her own. They were back above the massive bulging stomach.
If you look closely,
said Valentine,
you will notice that there are actually two stomachs. The larger chamber handles breaking down the more solid feed into nutrients to fuel the people machine and produce TPM brand meal extender. Anything unsuitable for human consumption is excreted for fertilizer. The smaller chamber handles liquid purification.
What are those organs attached to the water tracks?
Asked Wally, pointing to a clustering of what looked like rusty oblong grapes in a huge spongy brown wedge.
Liver and kidneys. Blackwell designed them to pull toxins and acid from the water. Simultaneously, they function much as our own by purifying the blood.
I noticed that your water storage is full and overflowing. Are you having shipping issues?
Notice that, eh? Yes. Unfortunately, faltering supply lines are roughly halving our potential output. I'm working on a solution, but as of now, a little wasted product is inevitable.
Have you considered a train?
Asked Wally, pausing to let the idea take root.
You may have just as wonderful a mind as Blackwell,
exclaimed Beatrix. Her smile finally reached the corners of her eyes, scrunching up the crow's feet and age lines beneath the layers of makeup.
What an ugly expression. Almost like the sinister smile of a hag about to bake and eat children.
Considered Wally before he could stop the errant thought.
You put in a requisition and I'll make sure to fast-track it through the bureaucracy. I saw earlier that you have workers mixing the received ingredients. If we work with your suppliers, we can get a tanker train filled with pre-mixed material. That'll have the labor, and the same train that supplies can also ship the finished products,
he said, even impressing himself with his business acumen.
Oh, Wallace, you are a dream in DOI trappings. I'll fill out the proper forms as soon as our tour has concluded. But what about expansion? I wouldn't want to limit TPM's potential because some dirty train tracks were in the way.
Shouldn't be an issue. Easily built and easily moved. Besides, at the rate you're producing, everyone will be jumping through hoops and doing cartwheels just to be in business with the people machine.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Does this mean? Are you considering?
Asked Valentine. Wally smiled.
I'm thinking on it, but there's very little convincing left to do to persuade me. Let's move on with the tour. It makes sense to stay. Just these few improvements in this factory will be the model across the country. I can be a part of that. Not to mention the luxurious food, drink, and most probably lodging. I can live like a king in a land of peasants. All those years of toiling away at the DOI, all the failed businesses, the starvation diet, the coffee as bitter and as harsh as the economy. This is it. This is my destiny. TPM is the future of industry. Why not reap the benefits while the getting is good?
Cogitated Wally as he followed Beatrix Valentine. The growing sound of grinding and crushing set Wally Abbott's teeth on edge. For good reason, because teeth produced the sound.
Here we are at material processing,
proclaimed Valentine. Metal pistons actuated rows of inflamed gums and human teeth. The molars processed the meal into a thinner, easier to digest paste. Flecks and chips of tooth were sifted from the gruel, further pulverized into a powder by more teeth, and deposited through the wall to a receptacle outside.
This is how we create our calcium supplement. The teeth are rich in it. No cavities either.
Joked Beatrix. Wally didn't laugh. He saw what was beneath the assembly lines, what gave them motion. Hundreds of human arms pushed the segmented steel tracks forward, and, in the distance beyond, 1,000 more scooped and transported the grain slurry to the teeth crushers.
Pretty neat, huh? Nothing goes to waste here at TPM,
said Valentine. Wally was hit with a sudden and terrifying question.
Where are they getting all the teeth?
But that wasn't the crux of it either.
Where are they getting all the organs for the machines, for that matter? And how do they replace such, especially if she's selling the damaged parts as a product?
In a rare moment of intuition, Wally Abbott kept his mouth shut.
I think it's about time you met Blackwell. Follow me,
said Valentine. She led him down a ladder from the catwalk, past the human conveyor belts, and into a dark room at their center. There was an airlock leading into the room. Beatrix paused as the doors shut.
I need to inspect you and your suit before we enter. This is the most sensitive part of our operation. I won't have Alexander compromised for lacks of safety standards,
said Valentine. She moved closer to Wally and bent down on her knees. Wally felt her hands through the suit. They started at his feet and moved up his legs. Her fingers probed at his inner thighs before nestling for an uncomfortable amount of time over his groin.
You are quite the package,
said Beatrix.
Both in business and as a man.
Wally's face flushed and his package shriveled away from her touch. To his shame, she felt this too.
Shy now, aren't we?
She asked.
That's fine. TPM has a product for that, too.
Her hands worked their way up his torso, then shoulders, then his head.
All right, you're good to go. At least to meet Alexander Blackwell. We'll deal with other matters later,
she said as she gave a sly wink. The inner doors of the airlock whooshed open. The darkness in this room was near absolute. Beatrix grabbed Wally's hand to lead him.
Blackwell, turn up the lights,
commanded Valentine. The room suddenly illuminated with a pale, white light. There, before him, was a glass orb filled with liquid and situated on a metal stand. Inside the fluid was a brain. A metal plaque glued to the glass read, Alexander Blackwell. A web of nerve tissue spread from the base of the stand.
Wallace Abbott, meet Alexander Blackwell. Alexander, this is Mr. Abbott, from the DOI. I think you'll like him. You two have a lot in common.
I guess I kind of already knew,
thought Wally Abbott.
I just hoped it wasn't true.
His eyes scanned the room. There were 3 more brains and 2 empty glass containers.
So, it's all made of people, isn't it?
He asked.
Don't be rude, Wallace. I haven't introduced you to the others yet.
Chastised Beatrix as she pointed to another brain.
This is Max Bader, formerly of the FDA. He makes sure all our products are up to snuff. And here is Rhea Fumagalli. She used to work for the USDA and was instrumental in concocting the right pH balance for our fertilizer. Last, but certainly not least, Old Man Thule. I don't know his real first name. He wouldn't tell me. Not many saw his true potential, but there are a lot of secrets hidden in his gray matter once you get past the alcohol damage. That's it of our little crew. For the time being. All right, now that we've been properly introduced.
Wally ran. He sprinted straight into the door and bounced off onto his back. His lungs struggled to suck in air. Beatrix Valentine sighed as she helped Wally back to his feet.
That was pretty foolish. You have to use this lever to cycle the airlock, silly man,
she said as she pulled the lever. Wally sucked in shallow breaths. The door whooshed open and he squeezed through.
Aren't you forgetting something, Mr. Abbott?
Asked Valentine. She turned and gave a wide, enthusiastic wave to the brain jars.
Goodbye, everyone. Fun's over. Back to work. Mr. Abbott, say your farewells.
Wally sheepishly gave a half-hearted wave through the door.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
He stammered. Beatrix roughly shoved past him into the airlock. As soon as the door closed, she hissed at him.
Really, Mr. Abbott? I hope you didn't hurt their feelings. We're like a family here.
That's what you're worried about? Their feelings? You got a lot of explaining to do.
All will be revealed, I promise. The tour is nearly over, but there is one more thing you must see.
And after? Will I be free to go?
Of course. Why wouldn't you be?
Wally Abbott didn't know what to think, but his opportunity to flee had been wasted by greed and visions of grandeur.
I just wanted to save the economy.
Even as he thought it, he knew it was mostly a lie. TPM sold not just product. It peddled false hope, fame, and prosperity. Wally had taken the bait. As soon as the outer door opened, Beatrix summoned a couple of burly goons. Both took positions at either side of Wally. Valentine led them back toward the stomachs at the center of the factory floor. Here was another massive organ that Wally had missed. It was tucked away beneath the masses of writhing small intestines. On the side of the organ was a small round viewing port.
What is it?
Asked Wally.
This is the future, Mr. Abbott. The great and miraculous people machine had its growing pains. At first, we wanted to use livestock, but animals are so expensive nowadays. So I had an idea. A grand plan to make TPM a success. 2 birds with 1 stone, as the saying goes. The economy is one problem, but can you think of the other?
Wally didn't answer.
I asked you a question, Mr. Abbott.
Snarled Beatrix.
Vagrants,
he whispered.
What was that, Mr. Abbott? I couldn't quite hear you.
Vagrants,
he repeated, only a touch louder.
Yes, the homeless, the lazy, the migrants, invalids, parasites all. Squatters and malcontents stealing food from the bellies of hard-working American citizens. But look at how successful and productive they are now.
this is criminal. This is insanity.
Is it? Crime rates are down, property values are up, and nobody shakes you down for loose change. Milton is prospering from TPM. We cleaned up this town, but it's not sustainable. The people machine always needs more replacement parts to keep it running at peak efficiency. Blackwell and I came up with a solution. Take a look there,
she commanded, pointing at the glass window. Wally Abbott had no choice. The two men grabbed his arms and forced his mask against the glass. The inside of the organ was full of clear fluid with a slight yellow tinge. His eyes caught the flutter of movement, but it was too dark to see. Whatever they were, they looked like tumors. Then a light turned on, giving the liquid a sickly orange glow. Numerous pale twisted cords hung from the top of the organ. Attached were clusters of human fetuses, kicking and writhing with life within the amniotic fluid. He could even make out their fully formed faces through the haze.
It's a womb!
the next generation of machinery,
cried Beatrix Valentine with a pomp and flair completely inappropriate for the horror she had just revealed.
Bred from the machine for the machine. If ethics were your issue, then worry no more. This is much more humane.
The men eased Wally away from the port. They had to hold him upright because his legs had returned to jelly.
Well, Mr. Abbott, what do you think?
Asked Beatrix.
That concludes the tour.
Wally Abbott steadied his legs as he thought about the file cabinets in his office. He had considered them a prison, but now all he longed for was their cold, unfeeling, paperwork embrace. He tried to shake away the arms of the goons. They didn't release until Valentine nodded the affirmative. Wally approached Beatrix, who was grinning wide like a Faustian fiend. He punched the smile from her face, but her mask and his fist took the brunt of the strike.
You're evil. Pure evil,
screamed Wally Abbott as the men grabbed him again and knocked him to his knees. Blood wept from his busted knuckles into his glove.
Well, you, sir, Mr. Abbott, have a wonderful mind, and I think you mussed up my makeup,
replied Beatrix Valentine. She ran her finger over her throat. One of the goons placed both his hands over the intakes of Wally's air filters. Wally fought to free himself, but he was weak and powerless. His lungs screamed for air. None came. The man suffocating him leaned in close and whispered,
Sorry, mister. I don't want to be intestines or a stomach or a heart or something.
Wally's vision started to darken.
Pleased with yourself, Wally?
He thought.
You can even muster a decent punch. Hopefully, I will die.
He shuddered at the alternative as it became harder to think. Then he remembered the drinking valve. Wally sucked on the tube until he caught a tiny stream of breathable air. His vision returned to normal. His lungs, while still labored, ceased their incessant cry for oxygen, and his thoughts flowed freely again.
Now what? I can breathe, but to what end?
Hasn't he fainted yet? What's taking so long?
Asked Beatrix.
I don't know,
replied the goon. At that moment, a shrill whistle issued from Wally's valve.
Ugh, he's breathing through the drinking tube,
sighed an exasperated Valentine.
Nothing goes to plan with this guy. Just rattle his head in the suit until he gets knocked out or something.
You bitch!
Screamed Wally in one last petty, impotent exclamation. It wasn't even necessary to bash him around. Wally Abbott fainted before he could suck in another breath.
Wally's new office was much like his old in layout, but beyond that, everything had changed for him. His desk was larger and intricately carved from a marble slab, ornate but practical in design. He even had a shiny plaque that said Wally Abbott positioned on its surface. His leather chair was plush and comfortable with lumbar support to die for. Now, only a single filing cabinet stood in the corner of the room. Instead of being filled with failure, it was nearly empty, ready for possibility and triumph. Wally Abbott had a lot of work to do. Wally grabbed his stainless steel mug and filled it with coffee from his brand new expensive machine. The aroma was heavenly. Despite it still being scaldingly hot, he took a sip. It was sweet and rich, as coffee should be. Its steam fogged up his glasses. He grunted in satisfaction as he sat down at his desk. In front of him were 2 documents. The first was his resignation letter to the DOI, and the second was his proposal for the construction of a railway station positioned next to TPM. Wally signed his name on the letter and placed it in his outbox. Then he pored over the details of the proposal. He nodded with satisfaction and smiled. It was the first time he had ever sincerely smiled while at work. The coffee ran straight through him. Apparently, he wasn't yet used to such a good quality roast. He entered his private lavatory to do his business. Even the toilet paper was luxurious. He finished, washed his hands with a wonderfully fragrant lavender soap, and returned to his desk. A knock came from the door. "Enter," said Wally cheerfully. Alexander Blackwell walked in. Wally wasn't quite sure how he knew it was Blackwell, and trying to remember made his head hurt. But it didn't matter. Nothing would ruin this bright first day at TPM. Alexander slapped a set of blueprints into Wally's inbox and left without a word. Wally pulled them out and looked them over. There were schematics for building electrical generators. The first was a wind turbine for the air chimney. The second was a hydroelectric pipe utilizing water pressure and gravity flow. The third was a blood vessel sheath that would simultaneously generate a minute amount of power from the pulses and reinforce the artery walls. On its own, it wouldn't produce much, but the arteries ran through the factory. Every little bit counted. Wally was nearly giddy as he slapped each of the blueprints with a big green stamp. It read, "Approved by the office of Wally Abbott." Then his grin faltered. It felt weird. It wasn't quite like an illness. He felt healthier than ever, but something was just off. He took another drink of coffee, but he must have had too much. It tasted sour and had a hint of something else that he couldn't quite place. It was almost akin to cornmeal. Wally leaned back in his chair. Suddenly his heart was racing. His pulse was swift and erratic, but his breathing was deep and steady. His stomach churned. Wally Abbott returned to the toilet. He couldn't get the strange taste out of his mouth. He ground his teeth. For a brief second, his vision flashed red, then black. As soon as his worry turned to panic, his body felt normal again. Well, sort of normal. In the background of his mind, he still felt off. Another knock came from the door. "One moment, just taking a little restroom break," called Wally.
"Taking a dump on company time? For shame, Wallace,"
came the jocular response of Beatrix Valentine. Wally finished up as quickly as he could, washed, and let Beatrix in. Her outfit and makeup were just as stunning as they were on that fateful day of the tour. Her high-heeled boots clicked across the tile floor.
"How you coming along on your first day at TPM, Wallace?"
"Just grand, Miss Valentine. I don't think I've ever felt happier," replied Wally. The lights flickered and then winked out. In the darkness, the walls gyrated, the floor pulsed, his desk and chair writhed like intestines. He smelled blood, disease, and decay. His office was a room of flesh. Beatrix herself looked like a rotten corpse oozing putrid pus and congealed bodily fluids.
"Good to hear. And please, call me Beatrix. We're a family now. I expect miracles from you and your wonderful mind, dear Wallace. Don't let me down."
Well, you know what they say. You're either part of the people machine, or you're part of the machinery.
Ms. Beaumont sat at the desk that used to belong to Wally Abbott. She looked as though she had aged 10 years in the matter of just one. She avoided the coffee in favor of a cup of tea that she delicately poured from her home-brought china set, as she often did when slapping fail stamps over the various quarterly reports. She thought of Wally.
"I wonder how that pitiful little man is holding out over at TPM."
She put another file into the further review needed tray. She reminisced about the day he had left.
"I'll either save the economy or be out of a job," he had said. So much for saving the economy.
Beaumont sighed as she smacked her red stamp on yet another report. She filed it in the dreaded failed business cabinet and took another sip of tea. It was cold. She refreshed the cup from her ornate bone china pot, only slightly warmer than the cup itself.
Speak of the devil,
she thought, grabbing the next file from her inbox. On its front read Quarterly Report, TPM. Last she remembered, back when Wally still worked for the DOI, TPM was 6 million units over quota. She had sneaked a peek while he was out on his ill-destined field work.
It must have been a fluke, but then why would Wally take a position?
Miss Beaumont herself had been the one to process his resignation, and now her hands quivered, unable to open the file, unwilling to see what lay within. She opened the file. Over 20 million units past quota. She pushed the papers away from her. They found the edge of the narrow desk and fell to the floor in a dazzling flutter of loose paper.
What did Wally do?
She drained the rest of her Earl Grey in a single gulp. The luke-cold liquid coated her throat and settled at the bottom of her stomach. She stood up.
I need to talk to Wally Abbott,
she thought. She exited her office in a near-mad frenzy.
Criminy, Miss Beaumont. Somewhere you need to be?
Asked her secretary, Mr. Cummins.
Oh, shut up, you Weasley prick, and get out of the way. I need to make a call,
responded Beaumont as she pushed his chair aside. She dialed the number. Didn't even have to look it up. It had been burned in her memory since the day Mr. Abbott had handed her that scribble on a scrap of paper.
You have reached TPM. We're sorry we couldn't answer, but business is booming, and a booming business is a busy business. Please leave your name, order, and line of credit after the tone. We'll be sure to meet all your needs,
recited the pre-recorded message.
Listen, this is Audrey Beaumont of the DOI. I need to speak with a current employee of yours, Wally Abbott. Expect me soon,
said Miss Beaumont. She hung up the phone.
What was that about?
Asked Mr. Cummins.
Mind your own, Cummins,
snapped Beaumont, gesturing to the pile of unsorted mail in his inbox.
Just consider it an extended smoke break.
She planted a cigarette between her lips and left before he could even answer. The taxi stopped short of the town of Milton.
This is as far as I take you,
said the cabbie.
What? Why? I need to get to TPM,
protested Beaumont.
Ain't no cab in the state that'll take you through there, but I can drop you at the bus stop down back a short ways.
I'm not paying you to take me to the bus. I'm paying you to take me to TPM.
No how. Call me superstitious, but Milton gave me the heebie-jeebies,
shuddered the cabbie as he nervously adjusted his cap.
How about this, then?
Proffered Beaumont.
Take me to TPM, or I'll revoke your license. I work for the DOI.
The cabbie shook his head.
Do what you're gonna do. Ain't no how I'm going through there. It's cursed.
Miss Beaumont slammed the taxi door upon her exit. She rudely tossed the fare through his window. Milton was a ghost town. The only sound was a whisper of wind that crept past the limestone buildings, and the occasional caw or skitter of the town's remaining denizens.
What happened here? Usually a good business makes a town thrive. Only thing to do is to find out. TPM should be that way,
thought Beaumont, orienting herself. She found her heading and continued. Her footsteps on the walk echoed and multiplied, making it seem as though there were ghosts roaming Milton's main street. But besides the rats, roaches, and crows, Miss Beaumont was the only one there. She lamented the loss of such a town.
Rural America is dying. It won't be long until nearly every town like Milton meets the same fate.
The faded red and white canopy of a diner caught her eye. She wiped a bit of grimy dirt from the window and looked inside. This was by far the least dilapidated building she had seen. A coating of dust covered everything. Plates with moldy food scraps still sat at the edge of tables. Charred residue lay in the base of a coffee pot.
Looks like everyone just up and left in the middle of service.
The thought brought fearful tears to her eyes. She lit up a smoke and moved on toward TPM. The activity picked up as she neared the factory. Semi-trucks with tanker trailers and cargo containers filled the lane. Construction workers laid rail ties. Miss Beaumont approached the gate. She pressed the button on a little intercom box.
Welcome to TPM. How may I help you?
Asked the voice. Beaumont thought she sounded haughty and fake.
Audrey Beaumont, I need to see Wally.
Oh, yes, Miss Beaumont. We've been expecting you. Please come in.
The gate swung open. Distant alarm bells were already ringing in her head.
They didn't even check my ID. Pretty lax security. Strange.
Stranger yet was the driverless golf cart that pulled to a stop in front of her. Miss Beaumont was not impressed.
Take a load off, Miss Beaumont,
came the receptionist's voice from the cart.
Wally's told us so much about you. Perhaps you'd like a tour of the outer facility?
Beaumont crinkled her nose. She pulled her lighter and pack of cigarettes free from her pocket.
No thanks, I'll walk,
she said as she sparked the lighter and started toward the front entry. The cart followed her.
A single-minded woman. I can appreciate that. I'll meet you in the lobby and then take you to Wally myself. He tries to play it cool, but he's really quite excited to get to work with you again.
Work with him? I think you got the wrong impression. I'm just here to talk,
responded Beaumont.
Of course.
Ms. Beaumont didn't like the tone of her voice, but she ignored it, finished her smoke, and entered the lobby. It was grotesquely decadent and large. Marble tiles ran from the threshold to the desk. Faux ionic columns lined the walls, drawing inexorably toward the receptionist.
Welcome, Audrey, to the great and miraculous people machine.
Again, Beaumont was unimpressed.
Anyone putting on such a front has to be hiding something.
Even with the distance between them, Miss Beaumont could tell that this woman was a classic butterface. That impression only worsened the closer she got. Her face and hair were so caked with crud that she was almost more cosmetic product than woman. Now, Miss Beaumont had long aged past anything resembling beauty, but there was a certain elegance and refinement to her graying hair, modest dress, and the unhidden lines on her facial features. This receptionist, however, clung desperately to a youth long gone. Her outfit was gaudy and revealing. Perfectly white teeth gleamed from between her artificially plumped red lips. The smile was fake, and her teeth were probably fake too.
She just screams deception, snake, danger. She can't just be the receptionist.
As if in answer to her thoughts, the woman click-clacked around the desk in her much too high heels, extended a talon of a hand, and said,
I'm Beatrix Valentine, General Manager of TPM.
In response, Miss Beaumont withdrew another cigarette and ignited it. Beatrix's nose wriggled like an angry inchworm, as if it were trying to escape the offensive stench of smoldering tobacco. Then her rictus smile widened. Beaumont took a deep inhale and blew the resulting plume right into Valentine's malicious face. Beatrix refused to even blink. Her long, false eyelashes fluttered in defiance.
You don't mind, do you?
Asked Miss Beaumont.
A filthy habit, I know. I almost had it kicked until I took over Mr. Abbott's position.
You are quite the woman. Even Wallace's praise could not prepare me. You know, I'm actually quite jealous. The last time I saw him this aroused was the first time he met me.
Indeed,
said Beaumont, indifferently as she eyed Beatrix up and down with a skeptical gaze. What followed was an awkward silent standoff. Neither refused to surrender by speaking first. Beaumont finally won when she finished her smoke, stamped the butt into the marble floor, and threatened to light another.
Shall we? It's been an absolute delight. But Wallace is waiting,
said Beatrix Valentine. Miss Beaumont slowly returned the pack of cigarettes to her pocket.
Lead the way,
she responded.
First, we need to get suited up. We are working with delicate machinery here.
Beatrix walked toward the locker room, and Beaumont followed. They went through the door. Miss Beaumont saw a half-second of a fist soaring toward her. White light burst in her vision, accompanied by the crack of her nose shattering. She fell backward and slid down the wall to the floor.
I can see why Wallace likes you. You're fierce. Like me. You could have been quite the thorn in my side,
said Beatrix.
You dime store hook,
started Beaumont before her attacker shoved a rag over her mouth.
Yes, I am quite envious. Wallace adores you. No matter. Plenty of fish in the sea and all that. And dear Wallace will finally get what he's wanted for years. You'll make him quite happy,
continued Beatrix Valentine as Miss Beaumont's senses darkened.
He's loved working here, but the last piece of the Abbott puzzle is a little intimacy. He has a wonderful mind, you know. I just wish he would have picked.
Miss Beaumont blacked out. She woke in a dark room. Silence settled over her like a cold blanket. Her eyes struggled futilely to adjust. Beaumont reached for her pocket. Her hand met a layer of viscous gel. It was only then that she felt the radiating prickle of her hot and itchy skin. Her nostrils burned from a scent like rubbing alcohol. She fished her lighter free and flicked the striker. The weak flame struggled against the darkness. Beaumont staggered through the room until she found the base of a short pillar. She held the lighter out to see. At the top, like a lampstand in a house of horrors, was a brain in a glass sphere. Beaumont snickered a bit. It was a good attempt at scaring her, but Miss Beaumont was made of sterner stuff than that.
I've seen better at the DOI Halloween party,
scoffed Beaumont internally. Externally, her body shivered uncontrollably. Her skin was pale, and cold sweat was fighting the gel for real estate on her skin. She read a metal plaque. Old Man Tooley. She moved the lighter down. A glass tube in a metal frame enclosed a bundle of what looked like a spinal cord. It ran all the way to the transparent floor and spread into a network of interconnected fibers. She felt through the shadows with only the flame of her lighter to guide her. She found another pillar. The etched words declared that this was Rea Fumagalli. Beaumont started to panic, but she refused to give in to what was probably an ill-timed, ill-humored practical joke. As she often did, when the pressures of the DOI got to her, Miss Beaumont took a pragmatic, stoic approach. She swallowed her fear and emotions.
Even if it isn't a joke, she'll have to let me out eventually. People will feel my absence. Mr. Cummins will sound the alarm and get the authorities involved.
Doubt flickered through her like an electric shock.
Mr. Cummins is the worst kind of conniving. He'll subsume my job without a moment's hesitation. You're on your own here, Audrey. Find a way out. You always do.
There was no way out. Only more pillars. Beaumont's lighter was getting hot. She found another brain, but extinguished the flame before it singed her fingers. She blew over the scalding metal until it was cool enough to touch. She flicked the striker near where she knew the plaque would be. A dark spot appeared in the center of her vision as she tried to read the ornate metal sheet. W. Ought. Her mind refused to fill in the blanks, but she had no choice. Her vision adjusted. Wally Abbott. Miss Beaumont looked fairly calm and collected, but her mouth was wide open. Her scream echoed through the room until it deadened into oppressive silence. Somehow she knew that Mr. Abbott, her beloved former boss, the shifty little man that dictated letters, forced her to call various businesses, and threw a hissy fit every time his ink pad ran out of pigment, was now a disembodied brain in a jar. Much to her relief, she found the pack of cigarettes undisturbed in her pocket. She lit one and sucked in nicotine relief. Another glass orb lay just beside Wally's. Miss Beaumont leaned in, half unwillingly, to read whose this was. By the orange glow from the tip of her cig, she saw that the sphere was empty. The plaque said Audrey Beaumont.